You've been gone.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Location number 5 for this series is Amble, a beautiful stretch of coastline with a little harbour. And if I'm being completely honest, I'm mainly headed here on this day because of the little stalls on the harbour where you can get sausage sandwiches and coffee. In this one, I wanted to commentate and dive into little aspects of the photography taking process, a little more than I normally would in these videos, so hopefully you find that helpful. Alongside that, I've got a couple of points or reminders, if you will, that I've been using in the winter season to keep myself motivated to go out and shoot on these colder, duller days. So let's jump back into the footage and I'll bring those up where I see fit. What I'm doing here is just figuring out if it's dark enough to get a slower shutter for a tiny bit of water motion without having a filter or tripod with me today. I did have to settle for f/22, but that got me about 1/5 of a second for the shutter. And then we head back and wait for a nice wave to come. I take this shot here, obviously holding the camera steady in the wind is easier said than done, but it turned out not bad, I guess.
You've been gone.
Alright, so round the corner a bit I found this little break in the rocks, which again, with a bit of water motion, I thought would make quite a cool shot. Here I'm just checking the shutter timing again, and the settings were pretty much exactly the same for this image. We've got the big house up on the left for a nice overarching subject. I'm not 100% happy with the composition here, but I quite like the end result, it's a nice shot. In the last episode, I spoke about searching for photos inside the last photo that you took, which is what I'm doing right here, but I decided it's not for me on this occasion. Okay, so my first little tip or reminder for this video, as I'm sure many of you know, but in winter, sunrise lasts a lot longer, golden hour if you will, lasts a lot longer than it does any other time of the year. I'm somebody that typically doesn't really care about golden hour or shooting in optimal light. There are occasions where I'll head to a certain location or plan a shoot around conditions, but for the most part, my attack plan is just to get out whenever and wherever I can, and then adapt my style of shooting on that day based on the conditions I'm faced with. However, a bonus of winter and something that can motivate you to continue shooting in these gloomy days is because we are faced with a much bigger window of golden hour light. If you're somebody that's only got an hour or two here or there, maybe one day a week you've got an hour to go out and take photos, like that is the reality for many of us that work full-time jobs and all that kind of business. Because of that wider window where the light sticks around, it means you can be a bit more free and sort of head out and probably be faced with some nice golden light regardless of the time, which you'll figure out later in this video when I do a little time check throughout the clips. So my second little tip for this video, as I head towards the harbour here and the day starts getting a little bit flatter and duller and greyer, what I tend to do in these situations is go off looking for photos that might look really nice in black and white. I know not everybody loves black and white photography, it's not particularly that popular. Me personally, I actually find black and white photography really hard. However, this is a great thing for you in your photography, because if you notice that the light's dull and the weather's flat and there's not really colour going on anywhere, putting yourself in the mindset to try and think about what photos are going to look good in black and white is a really good skill to learn. You have to look at scenes a lot differently, look out for contrast, look out for where the highlights are hitting and areas of frames that would look really good in deep blacks. Pushing your ability and putting yourself in these uncomfortable situations is something you always want to be doing with photography. As I take this third black and white shot here, I remember I've actually got a photo I really like in this exact spot from a few years ago. So I decided to actually pull back and try and do something a little bit different. There's quite a lot of photos online of this place, so this might be quite obvious, but I think it's cool. I take a step back behind the railings that shut off this portion of the pier and tried to frame the lighthouse through those railings instead of the obvious shot. I like that the red in the danger keep out sign on the fence slightly complements the red in the lighthouse, just a small detail despite it being a pretty gloomy shot still. So next I go searching for a little bit of colour in my life on this dull day and wander upon these beach huts. If you find something like this when you're out taking photos, don't forget to take an establishing shot, which is normally a wider scene, and then get in a bit closer for a bit more of a detail shot. And that way you're going to get multiple photos out of one subject, if you will. Okay, moving on, and I've got one last tip for this video when it comes to trying to stay motivated and find things to photograph in these dull winter days. For me, these kind of days and weather conditions is the perfect time to brush up on subject matter and noticing little details. I'm sure most of you have come across or heard the term the art of noticing, and that's kind of exactly what this is. I find it a great exercise on these days where you might be feeling a bit defeated by the weather conditions. Instead, switch your style of shooting and go searching for noticing details. Does that make sense? Go searching for noticing details. You know what I mean. The reason I love this so much is because it often shows how much you have grown and improved as a photographer. A few years ago, if I was walking along here, in fact, this happened, I walked here a few years ago, and I would have never ever noticed or looked twice at the following photos I'm about to take. I would never even point my camera at them, but the second you start viewing little details as potential photos, or even something to just practice your framing and composition on, is the moment you can safely say you're really finding a direction with your photography. And of course, the ones I'm taking in this video today might not be for you. You might be sitting here and thinking, well, I would never take a photo of that even if I saw it. That's fine, but no matter where you are, noticing these tiny little details that thousands of other people could have walked past every day and you've stopped and noticed it is going to put you quite far ahead as a photographer, because these photos at the end of the day are the ones that back up your big hero images. Alright, that wraps up the 15 photos I've took in episode 5. I want to ask a big favour of you here today. If you could drop a comment and a like to help me with the YouTube gods, that would be really appreciated. If you want to check out the rest of the episodes in this series, then I'll link the playlist right here. Having said that, that's it from me, and I'll see you in the next one. Boom!